Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Have you ever wondered how these huge festivals and conferences and exhibitions have been coping with COVID, because the guts has been taken out of those industries? And yet my guest got my attention because I discovered he has plowed through, kept going, pivoted, adapted, adjusted, because his heart is for artists, creatives, speakers. I'm talking about Hugh Forrest of South by Southwest Conferences, massive grown organisation. They've had the likes of Michelle Obama, Willie Nelson, people who are really making an impact, and he has kept it going because he loves the industry and he cares about artists, creatives, and the industry that feeds our soul. You know, we've things have been tough, and we've talked about the practicalities and the jobs and the finance, but it's really important to keep your soul fed. And we are going to meet Hugh right after this. The strongest prison bars are in your head. Leaders and teams, it's time for a jailbreak. Hugh Forrest, welcome to Trish TV.
Hey, Trish, it is great to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me and indulging me so I can talk a little bit about my experience at South by Southwest.
Oh, so great. Now, tell us a bit about what South by Southwest is, how it grew, and your role in it. And by the way, if you're watching, wherever you're watching, we're on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, and then after this, it's going to go out to everywhere, Instagram, all those other places. So feel free to like, subscribe, make a comment while you're here with us. I'll see your comments there as we go forward. So go ahead, Hugh. Tell us about South by Southwest and your role.
Great. South by Southwest is a celebration of the power of creativity. It was started as a music-only event in Austin, Texas in 1987. At that point, it was, again, mainly focused on so-called alternative bands from the US. In the 35 years since then, South by Southwest has grown to cover everything from technology to film to food, fashion, sports, politics, space exploration, transportation, cannabis, climate change, social activism, and pretty much everything in between.
Wow.
As much as the event has changed in 35 years, the focus on creativity in 2021 and 2022 is very much the same as it was in 1987. What has changed, however, is it's gone from a regional event to having a global footprint, bringing together some of the most innovative minds from more than 100 countries around the world, including lots and lots of creatives from Australia.
Yay.
They come to Austin every spring to share new ideas, make new connections, and brainstorm about a better future. And it's one of the events that really defines Austin, Texas, which is one of the fastest growing cities in the US at this point. The event brings in about $350 million to the Austin economy.
Fantastic.
And as context, that is about half of a US Super Bowl. So it is the Super Bowl of economic activity for Austin. It is also something that's helped put Austin on the global map, and again, contributed to that growth and contributed to a lot of people recognizing all this creativity that makes the city special.
Oh, I love that. And I picked up on one of the phrases you used, a celebration of creativity. I love that. It's you know, people sometimes think of creativity as almost like a trivial thing, like an afterthought, like an extra bonus, like an extra layer to Maslow's silly hierarchy of needs. So that sometimes I just think, Maslow, you had no idea. But anyway, that's a whole nother conversation. But creativity and the arts, it's not an indulgence. It's something that we need as human beings.
Well, absolutely. It's vital. It's vitally important, as you say, for humans in our overall experience, our part of our lives, to be happy, to thrive. I think one of the things that South by Southwest does well is teach creatives, empower creatives with the kind of skills where they can make a real living by doing their creativity.
Fantastic. Because it's got to be financial as well. You know, the starving artist stereotype, you know, it kind of sounds a bit romantic, but it's really not that great. You know, I mean, how many people could be amazing artists, but they have families, they have responsibilities, and so they might just have a regular job, and it's only ever kept as a hobby. And I mean, but that's the wonderful thing about the internet too, isn't it? It has opened up a whole world for artists to be able to do what they do.
Sure. It's being an artist, being a successful artist is a skill that can be done well or exceptionally well, like any other profession. And, you know, that was one of the initial impetuses of South by Southwest, was to create a convention, an event that gave artists the kinds of skills that other professionals have, exposed them to other artists who had done, you know, had a successful career trajectory, allowed them to meet people in the industry who could help them move their career forward. Again, giving creatives the skills they need to survive and in fact to thrive, and that's been a very successful formula for this little event that we call South by Southwest.
Wow. So, and how long have you been with the conference?
Well, I have been there much too long, is what I'm fond of saying. South by Southwest started in 1987. I came on board in 1989, and the story I often tell about my involvement with the event, which is it's good to always have an origin story or a creator story. I got hired because I had a computer and a printer, and South by Southwest didn't. So it's the another lesson in the importance of having the right hardware at the right time. Now that was now the point of context that's even more funny is, remember that back in the 80s, our technology wasn't quite what it is now. It was a Mac Plus, which, you know, is about probably that much of our smartphone now. But nonetheless, it was something that was a little more advanced than the fax machines and typewriters that the rudimentary office had at that point.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, it could have been a Commodore 64. I think I remember my little brother having one of those.
Okay, you got me there.
Oh, that's all I remember.
Way to hit me with a geek reference on that one.
Look, I didn't know much about computers until, you know, the last decade, like most people, I guess. So this is great that you were the tech guy and you would have been the guru. Wait a second, Trish.
You're embellishing a little bit on this story. I had a computer. I was not necessarily the tech person. I knew how to turn on the computer.
They didn't need to know.
Yeah.
You got a job. It got you a job, you know.
Absolutely. It got me a job. It got my foot in the door. You know, sometimes great things happen by a series of crazy circumstances like this one. So that was one of them.
It would have been a small team then, and now you have 600 plus employees. I'm just going by LinkedIn.
A little smaller than that. We were at about 200, 230 pre-pandemic. Unfortunately, we had to pare our staff a little bit during the pandemic. But when I joined, I was the first paid employee, and then we were able to grow. It's a heck of a ride watching us grow. It was something when I came on board, I never imagined in my wildest dreams that the event would grow as much as it did, that we'd end up covering all the topics that we did, as referenced in your intro, that we'd have first ladies of the United States speaking at the event, that we'd have presidents of the United States speaking at the event.
Wait. How did that happen? I mean, okay, so we're talking about it was small. It was, and I may not be. So it was small, and then you grew, and you just jumped to the First Lady of the United States. I mean, I did pick up on that when I went to the website. So was it like a gradual journey of bigger names and bigger names, and it was? And how do you reach out and say, hey, Shelley, how'd you like to belt out a few bars? Oh no, that's a different Michelle. Wait a minute.
You're saying that you don't have her. You don't have her on speed dial. Everyone in the US does. Come on. To the first part of your question there, Trish. I mean, if there's one of the secrets of South by Southwest is that we've grown a little every year, and over 30 years that amounts to a lot of growth. And that's not the sexiest thing to say, but it is, I think, something true, and true in the context of your focus on resilience, that it's a long journey, and take the long-term approach, even as much as we all want instant gratification. Get a little better, improve on your weaknesses daily, monthly, yearly, and over time that amounts to something pretty big. To the part
that's so good. I want to park there, because I did not expect that. I mean, I know that it's true. I know that it's steady plodding, grows, but you're in an industry of creatives. So how do you have different personalities, different styles working on different areas? 'Cause I guess that's why stars have managers. How do you navigate keeping is it like spinning plates all the time, or is it that you know what you're doing, you've been doing it for a while, you have a plan, and you have things in place to keep things going? How do you balance the being methodical with the creative side of things?
Well, I think it's a little more of the latter than the former, in terms of the amount of time I've worked on the event and the amount of time a lot of our staff has worked on the event, that we've gotten into a rhythm and understood that, this is what we need to be doing this time of the year. This is the time of the year where nothing seems like it's going to come together, but bear with it, it always will. Now, that is what made life during the pandemic, from my experience and probably yours, so terrifying, is that you had a rhythm that you'd followed for, 10 years, 20 years, that had been successful. You could kind of have a roadmap of where you need to be, and all of a sudden that roadmap was no longer valid.
Right.
So again, that's amongst many of the scary things in the last 18 months. That's been one of them.
True. And I imagine that prior to the pandemic, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, because you would know what's going on, that the global financial crisis would have been the next biggest hiccup, and then possibly prior to that, the 9/11.
Yeah.
Well,
would
that be fair to say?
That is certainly we were very much impacted by 9/11, because people didn't want to travel. Companies didn't want to send people traveling. And that was a huge challenge. What is interesting about the global financial crisis is we were not that much impacted by that. In fact, we saw some fairly significant growth. And I think that the answer on that, or the reason on that, is that we were growing a lot in this startup space, young entrepreneurs. These were people who, in many cases, had been let go, who were beginning to get these tools to, chart their own future. And they saw South by Southwest as a place that they could make connections, learn things that would help them there. So, as difficult a time as that was for many, many people, we were very fortunate in that time to see some very strong growth.
That's so awesome. Yeah.
Very much, just building off that a little bit, I mentioned that we started as a music event, very much focused on the music industry. Yep. In the last decade plus, it's really transitioned a little more to a technology event, or even a lot more to a technology event. I think we can say that, we can point that there is a technology backbone to almost everything you do now. If you're a musician, if you work with musicians, you got to kind of understand technology at a basic level, understanding social media. With any kind of business that is. But again, my point here is that we've morphed and changed and evolved, where a little more focus is probably on the tech side of things. And I see that as a strength. I mean, one of the reasons that we've survived for 30 years is that the event continues to change and grow and morph. And I hope that 10 years from now, when you interview me again, hopefully at that point we'll be an event about something maybe completely different than technology, because we'll have morphed into something else. And I think that's, again, going to your resilience theme. You always have to be looking to change and adapt if you want to survive. And I think we have been generally good at changing and adapting as the overall landscape for creatives has changed and transitioned.
It's so true. Like Justin Bieber got his start just playing a song on YouTube and gets discovered that way. That's amazing. And so what you have been adaptable, and you were, I imagine when you went virtual, did you go virtual before the pandemic already? You would have had your tech in place, because as you say, with artists, you've got to have your sound systems working because it's got to sound good, and so on. But the hey, Warwick, Mary, embracing the tech has to be good in the current environment. The tech has to be good, particularly the sound, and that's something that Warwick is very, very good on that. He's a professional speaker and an MC. And he always says your sound, he produces events as well. So welcome, Warwick. I'm so glad you could join us. That you were positioned for the sound and the tech.
Right.
But it still wouldn't have been easy. So tell me about your transition to doing a virtual, and Julie, thank you, Julie. Yes, COVID had to make, some people are adaptable and some people just got smashed. And they've just completely left our industries. That's true. But, they have to make people adaptable. Yep. So go ahead.
South by Southwest occurs every March. And that placement there are a number of factors there that probably don't have enough time to go into that story. But my point is that we were one of the first big events in the U.S. to be canceled because of COVID.
Wow, it was okay. It would be cancelled, yeah. So that was 2020.
That was 2020, and I think for a lot of people in Austin, a lot of people in the U.S., and some people around the world, when the mayor of Austin announced that for safety reasons the event was being canceled, that light bulb went off that, hey, this thing is a lot more serious than we thought. So we like to say, or I like to say, that in our best moments, South by Southwest is a preview of the future. And unfortunately, we were one more preview of the future in 2020, where this thing got canceled and showed what a lot of the world was going to be like for the next year or so. So in 2020,
that was March. That was right, March right
2020.
At the start.
Right. We were able to transition some of the content and some of the panels, presentations to similar to what we're doing today, to free content on YouTube. But that it was a fraction of what we did. Then a year later, March 2021, i.e. 5 months ago, we did our first ever fully online virtual event. Similar to this adaptability idea. It was a big transition for us, huge learning curve, and that it was completely different than everything we've done for 30 years. We as staff members, myself, my staff, our families were very apprehensive going into this thing. But I think that we were generally happy with the results. We felt like we served our community very well. We were able to showcase some amazing bands, some great films, some incredible speakers, as you mentioned, everyone from Willie Nelson to Richard Branson. To Stacey Abrams, the voting rights activist in the U.S. I think what we really doubled and tripled and quadrupled down on for the 2021 event was speakers who could deliver an inspirational message. We've always specialized in inspiration at South by Southwest, but I think what we learned and relearned and relearned in 2021 is that inspiration in today's world has gone from a nice to have to a need to have. We have got to have inspiration. We've got to have stories such as yours that can inspire us to do better, that can inspire us to overcome, to persevere, to be resilient.
Well, I'll check my calendar and see, but you can have your people contact my people, and if they're persuasive enough, maybe. But I would love. That'd be so awesome. That's just a little subtle little hint there. But yeah, it is just so important, and that's what people are realizing now, to invest. Mental resilience is, people think of it as used to think of it as a nice to have, a bit like leadership training in retail. They just don't do it not so much here in Australia, and then they wonder why they have a high turnover of staff. You've got to invest in, I don't call them soft skills, a bit like those emotional intelligence is not soft skills. I call it smart skills, and being able to keep this going. And that's where the creative side, we need inspiration, but we need music. We need those things that make us whole. Otherwise, we're just stale. And when we're stale, we lose our joy. We lose our spark. We lose our raison d'etre, our reason for living. And then what are you doing? And then we get depressed. Depression is at an epidemic now.
Right.
And we just feed it with the wrong things. And an organization like yours is like a beacon, allowing, that to come, to lift people up. And what I want to do is make sure I've got your website there.
There we go. SXSW.com.
I'll tell you what,
Thank you.
Let's go have a look. Let's have a look at your website. Here we are. Apply to participate in 2022. But this is just awesome. And what I spent some time around this website, and I watched some amazing short films with great messages in them. It was I just parked there I think I spent an hour and a half just surfing around the place and thinking, I have got to talk to this Hugh fellow. So I'm glad. Thank you for being available. And so let's have a look down here. You now look at this, March 11 to 20, 2022. Now that will be both in person and virtual. Is that right, Hugh?
Yes, for 2022, we are we'll be doing what a lot of events are doing, which is embracing this hybrid, so-called hybrid model.
Yep.
Fancy word, or maybe not a fancy word, for having some portion of the event in real life, IRL, and then having more of the event or some portion of the event available virtually. What we found for our online event in 2021 is as hard as it was to produce, as difficult as it was to produce, as challenging as it was to produce, there were lots of huge upsides. One, it increased our global audience, people who always wanted to come to Austin, but hell, Austin's a long plane trip from Australia, and by the click of a mouse, it's a lot quicker. So it we had a pretty good global audience before, even more of a global audience last year, and I think that will continue with the hybrid event in 2022. Another thing that we saw with the online event, and will continue with the hybrid event in 2022, is just the ease of navigation. So much easier to absorb and travel from one particular thing to another via the click of the mouse, as opposed to
Yes.
walking across the street or walking across a crowded convention center. And in that sense, I think our registrants were better able than ever before to experience, understand what we call convergence, which is that inspirational aspect you get from watching a film, or an inspirational aspect you get from watching a cool new band that you've never heard of, and then combine that with a speaker who's got an incredible message, and then go back to watching a comedy showcase, and then repeating and rinsing and mixing all over again. That's always what South by Southwest has been all about.
Now, that would take a lot of dancing, or coordination. And now tell me, how did you go with the bandwidth? Because I know there have been conferences, for example, in hotels, that the hotel just was not able to cope with sucking up all that bandwidth. It's like having a glass of milk with 20 straws in it. How did you go about that with what you were doing? Was that a big challenge, or did you have things in place already?
We have a very skilled tech and innovation group, and they were able to successfully navigate most of those tech challenges. Again, in the spirit or context of your message, Trish, our one of our biggest keynotes was being broadcast live, and the tech went down right before this person was supposed to speak, and there was a 20-minute wait, and you're going, oh my God, as an organizer, you're going, that 20 minutes might as well be 200 years. You're counting every minute. But when the tech came back on, this speaker, who was Stacey Abrams, who I mentioned before, was absolutely incredible. And she just, was inspiring, gave a message of hope, gave a message of passion, of power, of inclusion. It was absolutely the perfect message for our audience. And what was, an incredible lesson in resilience and how you can turn something from a negative to a positive with the right attitude, and with the power of just, as you say, unlocking those mental bars that so often block what we want to do.
True. And look, as they often say, we are all in this together, and we are learning together, and to have a message that's living the message, isn't it? That and professional speakers are professional for a reason. They know what they're doing, they know their stuff, and they know how to do it. I'm wired in on 3 computers in this room. It's my tech. I've got backups on backups, and things can still go wrong, but it's how well we recover and what we deliver. And thank you, Julie. Julie Donnelly is happy to learn about South by Southwest. Now, she's in America, so she may very well, actually, okay, I see. So she's very happy about hybrid because
nice.
You've got a ticket sold there. So,
ding, 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 ding.
Julie,
to what you just said, Trish, I mean, whether it's producing events, whether it's anything else, we all make mistakes. We all have problems. It's not the mistake or the problem. It's how you bounce back from that, what you learn, what you take, moving forward, and do as I say, not as I do, because I get as stuck on these problems as anybody else. But if we can train ourselves, if we can condition ourselves, if we can convince ourselves that it's about the rebound, not the initial setback, then we end up in such a better place.
It's asking the right questions. when I'm training people in how to shift their thinking, that shift and lift, I call it, it's
Nice.
going from, shift and lift. And sometimes it's like you over here, shift and lift. but quite often it's going from, oh, why me, to hold on, okay, what now? And it's in the opening of the question that then the answers come, where you can be calm and actually, do something about it. And often it's the community that can help. It's often people who've said to me, I'll try this or try that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, so that's what's just brilliant. Wow, my goodness, Hugh Forrest, I could just keep on talking to you about this stuff, but it is time to wrap up. I do want to encourage people once again to go to the website and check it out and make sure you register for next year. And just know, we need these beautiful things in our lives. They're good for our mental health. We're mind, will, and emotions, as well as body. We need to have these things that bring us hope and bring color to our lives. It's not just about the dollars. Yes, it is. And that's the other bonus, is that this is a very, it's a great profitable financial thing for a city, for a state, for a country, but it also opens up the world for artists to get a start and to make a career, so that they can, oh, look who we've got here. We've got hello from Chicago. Keep the events alive. So true.
Nice.
Hi, Diane. So we want to keep them alive. And going hybrid means that you have got a much, much bigger market.
Absolutely.
My own market has expanded exponentially. I've spoken in a lot of countries in the last 12 months from this chair. So I'm so looking forward, Hugh, to what South by Southwest is going to do next year, and I look forward to staying in touch and hearing it and promoting it for you as the time approaches. So well done. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Trish, thank you so much for having me and letting me talk a little bit about South by Southwest. I am very much appreciate your story. I love your energy. I love the passion you bring to what you're talking about. And I hope that when we get to the other side of this Delta craziness, that we can at some point meet face to face.
Oh, well, I have no doubt. I will be. Okay, I've got to pop in this last comment that Diane has popped on. She's a big fan. She already knows. Thank you, Diane. That'll be great. I have no doubt. I am itching to. I'm not homesick. I'm travel sick. Do you say travel sick when you can't wait to get back and visit places and be with people? So I look forward to coming to Texas one day and seeing what can be done. Wonderful. There. All right. Well, thank you so much, and everybody. It's been great having you on. Please remember to like, share, subscribe. If you've got creative friends, then send them the link so they can watch this interview and bring them some hope about what can happen in the future and what can be done. Just share it around, because this has been it's an important festival, but it's a more important message overall for people in that creative space. So, all right, and we will see you next time.